Hey guys and welcome back to my channel. This is part 5 of What If Naruto was the Whirlwind Alchemist in Fullmetal Alchemist. Before we begin, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and also go and support the author, link in description. Obito's pop right around when Miyuki is shot at with a bazooka. Miyuki! I shouted into the earpiece as I heard the explosion go off in the absence of Miyuki's voice. Damn it, she must be unconscious then. I gritted my teeth as I tried to escape the continuous fire that I was under to get to Miyuki, but I wouldn't be fast enough even if I escaped them. Fire! I heard someone in the earpiece shout, and it couldn't be good news. Miyuki! I shouted along with Roy, who heard the whole incident as well. Everything went in slow motion as I waited for the sound of bullets piercing the flesh, but to my surprise I only heard the bullets hitting something, muffling the sound. What the? Could she have created a shield just in time? But wasn't she unconscious? Before I could ask if Miyuki was okay, I heard her voice. No way, it can't be possible. She stuttered, not making any sense. Miyuki, what can't be? I heard Roy's panicking voice on the other end, answer me. Miyuki, damn it, are you alright? Damn it, Obito, can't you do anything? Roy shouted to me this time. I grunted as I flipped into the air, avoiding oncoming bullets before answering him. As much as I want to, I can't. The Briggs soldiers aren't here just yet, and I can't use any more of my chakra to send out a clone to help Miyuki and... Miyuki! An unfamiliar voice entered the mic, and Roy and I immediately closed our mouth and wondered who was with Miyuki and how this person knew her name. We didn't have to wait long. Gaara! Miyuki's voice whispered into the mic and I froze in mid-flip. Gaara, wasn't that her husband, but what was he doing here? As I continued to listen to the conversation, I learned that Gaara was apparently alive, and so were her brother and Kakashi, if that's true. Gaara, that's Miyuki's husband, isn't it? Roy's voice echoed in the earpiece as I jolted back to reality and continued to dodge the bullets and attack the central soldiers. I grunted a bit in pain as a bullet slightly pierced my skin. It wasn't a big wound, so I could leave it untreated for now. Yeah, listen Roy. There's nothing more to say, Obito. Roy cut me off, his voice sounding a bit off from before. He sounded almost hurt. Miyuki's alright, and what's more, she's back with her family again. I won't interfere with Miyuki anymore. Married women aren't my thing. Roy. Oh, and listen, I'm heading underground right now to see if we can find another way to father. I'm sure there won't be service down there, so don't bother contacting me. Make sure you tell Miyuki that as well. Hold on, you can't go and fight father on your own. If you don't remember, he has the power to take your alchemy away. Even if you go with your team, your guns will be useless. I argued into the mic before shouting, fire style, grand fireball. And burned the ammunition trucks, blowing them into smithereens. You're insane. Well, we have to do something, and you can't stop us. Remember, this is our country. We're not going to stand by and let other people save it for us. Roy's voice suddenly cut off and it was replaced with static. Roy, damn it Roy. I growled out into the mic as I jumped down to the streets and began taking out the central soldiers one by one, knocking them unconscious. Where are those damn reinforcements? I muttered before jumping back to avoid another barrage of bullets followed by more central soldiers. As much as you would love to reunite with your family again, I'm going to need some help here though, I thought as I took out a kunai and threw at the closest soldier. Taking a deep breath, I decided to try and see if I could get Miyuki's attention again. Hey Miyuki, hello. What's going on there? I heard you say Kakashi's name and Naruto's. What's going on? I asked, even though I had a vague idea what was happening. I really needed to sharpen my skills as a matchmaker. Oi Miyuki. Oh sorry Obito. Miyuki apologized. It's just, words can't describe how happy I am. My family, they're here Obito. They're here in Central City. Obito. I heard Kakashi's voice in the background and I couldn't help but smile. Even after all these years, I could still remember how he sounded like, even if his voice is a lot deeper than it was during the Third Shinobi War. You can't possibly mean. Wait, does that mean the Kakashi-tem is there? I want to talk to him. I cried, genuinely happy. I mean, it isn't every day you meet your long-lost friend rival. I had so many things to ask him and I wanted to know now, despite being in a war for survival. In a while Obito, we still have to finish helping the Briggs soldiers hold back central forces for Roy and Ed. Speaking of Roy, is he still on? I winced as she mentioned Roy's name, sounding guilty. Anyone would be. About that, while you were reuniting with your family, he said to tell you that he was going underground and not to contact him since there's no service down there. So as of now we can't contact him or anything, it's just the two of us. I replied as I kept out the part where Roy sounded hurt after finding out about Miyuki's family reunion. Oh, I see, I hope he stays safe. I heard her awkwardly finish. Anyways, how are things on your end? Did the Briggs soldiers finally take the central command? I sidekicked a solider before jumping into the air and throwing kunais at the rest of the soldiers, which most failed to dodge. I'm almost done here. The Briggs soldiers should be coming here soon so I can leave my post and meet up with you later. From what I hear, I think the Briggs soldiers did, so we have one thing less to worry about. I can't wait to meet your family in person though, they should be really interesting to meet. Especially Mini Clone Sensei. I laughed as I remembered the picture Miyuki showed me of her brother and he looked practically like Minato Sensei. His name is Naruto. Miyuki laughed into the mic and I couldn't help but smile. However, the happy moment was gone when I felt a familiar but deadly chakra signature nearby. Wait, hold on, I think something's going on. I said seriously for once, my happy-go-lucky tone gone. As I activated my Sharingan, I looked towards Central Command where the chakra signature was heading towards, and I cursed as I identified the culprit. Damn it. How's it possible? Brenda told us he was dead, damn it. How many times does it take to kill that damn homunculus? What, Obito? What's going on? Miyuki asked. Looks like that reunion with your family is going to have to wait. I growled as I saw the Briggs soldiers finally coming into my area. About damn time. Quickly I ran towards the men and gave them orders to push these men back while I would go to Central and take out Bradley once and for all. If he had the ultimate eye, then he was going to meet his match. King Bradley is back and he's heading towards Central Command. I'm going over there to try and stop him. Those guys won't stand a chance against him. With my Sharingan, maybe we can bring him down, I said as I jumped from rooftop to rooftop trying to catch up to the homunculus. But Obito, you're not ready for him. He's probably about Junin level or higher. You can't possibly take him on your own, even if you have the Sharingan. You don't have enough training to take him on just yet. Miyuki shouted into the mic. Sorry Miyuki, but I have to do something. I can't let those men die at the hands of that bastard. I growled before ripping off the earpiece and shoving it into one of my many pockets. Not now, not ever. As I neared the building, I took a soldier pill out of my coat pocket and quickly chewed the chakra pill. I was going to need it now more than ever. Once I felt a burst of chakra entering my chakra pathways, I activated my Sharingan once again and prepared myself for a battle of a lifetime. In less than 30 seconds, I ran out of rooftops and I jumped down onto the streets where Central soldiers blocked my path. Not bothering with them, I rushed past them, knocking a few off their feet, and made my way towards the main entrance where the Central soldiers began to rushing towards. Well, if I can't go through, I muttered as I momentarily stopped in front of the building, making my presence known. Go over it. I pushed myself off the ground and flew straight over the soldiers and onto the weird diagonal roof entrance where I ran the rest of the way, dodging the bullets of Central soldiers. I glared angrily as I saw the homunculus King Bradley take down a couple of Briggs soldiers and ran towards. Wait, what the hell? The other person had a similar chakra signature to a homunculus, but yet at the same time it was familiar. He looked familiar too. He looked like the guy we helped back at that old abandoned shack. Ling. Yeah, it was Ling. But why did he have homunculus chakra in his system? Stop trying to think about that now. He's fighting against King Bradley, so he should be on our side. If not, when we get to that crossroad we'll find out. I thought as I took out a kunai, pumped more chakra into my legs, and sped up even more. But right now, it's time to kick some Führer's ass. Need some help, I shouted as I jumped over the concrete wall and rushed right towards the unsuspecting King Bradley with a kunai ready. Sorry I'm a bit late, I grunted as my kunai connected with the homunculus's small knives. The hero always comes at the last moment. We stared into each other's eyes, or in my case my one eye, for a while as we each tried to push our weapons back. So that's what an Ouroboros tattoo looks like, I thought as I stared into his left disfigured eye where a tattoo of a dragon was. And everyone thought he had just a missing eye. Interesting eye you have there, and just who are you? The homunculus asked as he tried to push me back. I smirked as I felt Ling's presence coming right behind me. Just a doctor with some mad ninja skills. I chuckled as I jumped over the homunculus and let Ling attack the Führer. Captain Buccaneer. I heard several soldiers shout behind me as they lifted up a Briggs soldier who was missing an arm and bleeding quite a lot. Damn, he'll die if he doesn't get any medical treatment soon. But I have to help bring down this homunculus. I'll have to use the shadow clone to help him. That'll deplete at least a third of my chakra, so I'll have to use my moves carefully. Shadow clone jutsu. I muttered as a cloud of smoke appeared next to me before it disappeared and an exact replica of me stood in its place. You know what to do, I said as the clone nodded and rushed towards the injured Solitaire. Now, it's time to join the battle, I said as I took out another kunai and charged at the duo. I see, you're from the same place Major Sabaku came from, King Bradley said as he pushed away Ling and charged towards me, 2 knives at the ready. Don't you dare call her as if she's one of your subordinates, I growled out as I slashed at him, dodging the other knife before jumping back and tried to find an opening. You damn homunculus. Hey Obito right, Ling said as he appeared next to me smiling, his eyes closed. Nice of you to join. I blinked a couple of times as I registered the difference of attitude. Before he was almost bloodthirsty and now he was almost like me when I was younger, carefree almost. Yeah, wait, I shouted, how is it that you have homunculus chakra and you like King Bradley does? I asked the Xing prince. Well, Ling started before he opening his squinty eyes revealing purple pupils and his homunculus chakra nearly doubled. Let's just say that the prince and I made a deal. Ling smirked, his voice deeper than before. So, you're on our side. Ling smirked as he looked at King Bradley who surprisingly stood there the entire time and didn't take the opportunity to attack us. No, I'm just here on personal reasons. His arms suddenly hardened, turning a dark gray color and his nails turned into claws. If you're fighting him, then you can't be that bad. I smirked as I threw my right kunai at the homunculus before charging right after it. A little help would be nice though. Are you trying to get yourself killed? I heard Ling shout as King Bradley deflected the knife and charged at me as well. Impressive, King Bradley said as he slashed at me multiple times without getting a scratch on me. Not many people can fully dodge my attacks. You're not the only one with the special eye, I panted as I flipped backwards to dodge his attack. Ling. You don't have to tell me twice, he shouted as he charged and continued to attack the homunculus. It's only because of the Sharingan that I can predict his movements and be able to dodge them. However, the speed, that's going to be the end of me if I don't come up with a way to counter his attacks instead of dodging them. They're sending more troops up the shaft, a soldier cried as tearing my view away from the fighting. Now of all times, I muttered before answering him, my clone should. I felt a presence behind me and with my Sharingan I could see a ghostly figure of a hand holding a knife aiming for my chest. Fuck, I shouted as I ducked and rolled out of the way from the homunculus attack. However, before I could jump away he was onto me again, stabbing and slashing at me. As much as I would have loved to fight Greed one-on-one, you're the bigger threat I need to get rid of. He glared as I blocked his attack with my own kunai. Well then, Ling shouted as he jumped above me, heading straight towards the homunculus, it'll be 2-on-1 then. Quickly pushing chakra into my arms, I pushed the homunculus back letting Ling have an opening before I rushed to the right side of the homunculus and attacked simultaneously with Ling. It's been a while since I actually had to fight. He sighed before blocked both of our hits, let's see if I still can take you out quickly. Damn it, I glared at the homunculus as he pushed the both of us back before charging at me. He's able to block both our attacks easily, maybe Miyuki was right. I might need some help bringing him down. Some help, I shouted as I continued to dodge the homunculus's attack, not even getting a shot in. Ah, I shouted in pain as I felt him stab my abdomen before I slashed at his arm, forcing him to let go of the knife embedded in my flesh. Getting tired are we? He said before charging at me again. I rolled out of the way and jumped back as Ling took over in the attacks. Not even, I panted as I took out the knife, luckily it wasn't embedded that deep, and charged at him, aiming a kick at his head while Ling distracted him. However, before I could land the hit, the Führer slashed at Ling forcing him to jump backwards in my general direction causing the both of us to collide in midair. In slow motion I saw the homunculus running towards us, knife at the ready, preparing to slash at the both of us and there wasn't much we could do. Damn it, this is going to be very painful, I thought as I slowly tried to protect myself from the attack. However, before he could land his hit, a black figure appeared behind him and the Führer turned around and focused his attention on the newcomer giving Ling and I time to jump back and escape. Who the hell? I panted as I took the time to catch my breath before the black figure jumped to the right side of Ling and I could finally get a good look at him. With gray spiky hair and a mustache, the old man wore a ninja-like outfit and wielded a kanta. Nice moves old man, Ling said as he smirked at him. You really saved my ass. Our asses, I muttered before smiling cheekily at him. But thanks OG, really appreciative. You're welcome, he said in a scratchy voice giving me a slight smirk before frowning. I wasn't trying to save your ass, I was merely protecting the young lord's body. He said, I'm assuming, to Ling. It's the same ass. Your sickening Kai is radiating from the prince's body, although it helped me locate you. The old man said as he stared at the homunculus in front, not acknowledging Ling's previous statement. Wait, Kai, does he mean chakra? Wait, then that means. Why don't you tell me whom we were fighting? Especially since neither of us could land a scratch on him. Führer King Bradley, I said as I took another chakra pill out from my pouch and munched on it before placing a hand on my wound and began healing it. Might as well since we're not fighting at the moment. The old man gasped in surprise before he stood up straight. Well, this is the first time I ever laid eyes on him. He suddenly held his kanta in a tight grip that it began to tremble in his hand as he glared intensely at the Führer. So now I know what the bastard who took my granddaughter's arm looks like. He snarled before charging at him. Hey, hold it, OG. I shouted as I ran after him. He's not someone you can take on your own like that. I shouted as I took out another kunai and blocked his attacks while the old man and Ling tried to land a hit on him. Damn, with 3 people, he's still able to hold his own. I thought as I jumped back and let the other 2 attack him. Well then, it's time for the big guns then. OG, Ling out of the way. I shouted as weaved through several hand signs before drawing in a deep breath. Fire style, fire breath jutsu. As I released my breath, a hot jet of fire rushed out of my mouth and straight towards the homunculus. I'd like to see you dodge that. I thought as I released my jutsu as I saw the flames engulf the Führer. Huh, what the? Impressive, the Führer said as I sliced through the flame and ran straight at me, but not good enough. Kuso, I yelled as I quickly took out a kunai to block the attack. Ling quickly came on his right side and began swiping his claws at him. How hard is it to just get a scratch on you, damn it? I shouted as I swung my kunai at him. Before my kunai could even reach his face, I couldn't move my kunai any further and realized that he managed to use the tip of his knife to stop my kunai. The fuck, this can't be good. I thought as he thrust the knife out of my hand and kicked me towards Ling, colliding with him again. As the both of us landed on the floor, he used my kunai and one of his own knives to pin our coats down, preventing us from moving as he charged at the old man. OG, I shouted as I saw the homunculus use the same trick on the old man to trade weapons and began gaining the upper hand as he used the kanta. Damn it, stupid coat, stupid homunculus. I growled out as I pulled on my coat to try and get out of it before I gave up and began taking the coat off instead. It's impressive how fast you can move, I heard the homunculus say, snapping my attention back towards the fight, and my eyes widened as I saw him less than a foot away from the old man. You're even older than I am, however, this is as old as you're going to get. Damn it, I won't make it in time. I thought as I stared helplessly. No, old man. As the Führer followed through with his attack, a silver figure jumped behind the old man and pulled him back as the armor cracked, jumping a couple feet away from the homunculus. Sorry we're late, a familiar voice said as the silver figure came to a stop and gave me a clear view of him. It's a habit I picked up from an old friend of mine. Kakashi said as he stared uninterested at the Führer while supporting the old man who, despite have a deep wound, it wasn't not life-threatening at the moment unless it went untreated. Alphonse, he needs medical attention. A boy around the age of 15 with violet hair jumped from the side of the building and landed next to Kakashi. Hi, Alphonse said as he took the old man from Kakashi's arm and jumped back to where my clone was slowly healing the captain and laid the old man down and began medical ninjutsu on him. Kakashi, I asked as I took off my coat, revealing my dark blue muscle tank top. Kakashi turned his attention to me and gave me an eye smile, something I thought I would never see on his face. Obito-kun, it's been a while, hasn't it? I smiled as I took in his familiar appearance. He still had that damn mask on and his hair was still gravity-defying. Only his forehead protector was slanted to cover his left eye, most likely where I gave him my Sharingan. Yeah, it has. Another shinobi, I take it? The homunculus asked as he faced Kakashi, looking uninterested. I guess we didn't do a good job in eliminating the ninja if your kind keeps popping up. So you were behind the attack in Konoha then and the one in Suna too? Kakashi growled out, his one eye narrowing in anger. Yes, I was. Well then, at least we know the person responsible for the death of the people close to us. Kakashi nearly snarled as he lifted his headband and closed his right eye as the Sharingan stared right at the homunculus. Obito, I could use some assistant if you don't mind. I smirked as I took out a kunai, twirling it before grabbing it firmly in my hand. Not at all. Ling, go to your old man, we'll take it from here. I said as I looked down at the Xing prince who glared at me. Hey, who do you think? You're a prince, right? That means you'll inherit the throne in your country one day. You can't die here, I won't allow a kid like you to. So just stay back and let us handle it. I smiled cheekily at him before charging at the homunculus backside as Kakashi rushed forward. Despite not fighting for several years, it seemed that my body still remembered the teamwork that Minato-sensei drilled into us as I fought side by side with Kakashi. When he would engage King Bradley, I would take the opportunity to attack his unguarded side and also provide an opening for Kakashi as well. And even though Bradley was better with a sword, Kakashi still managed to keep up with him in speed and power. Obito, I'll need an opening, Kakashi said as the both of us jumped back to avoid another set of attack from the homunculus, who actually sported several small cuts from Kakashi's kunais. Chidori, I asked as I saw Kakashi lift up his right arm and lighting erupted from his own hand, the lighting chirping loudly. You helped me perfect the move, Kakashi said as he smiled at me before turning his attention back to the homunculus who charged at us. Incoming. Already on it, I shouted, smiling as I charged at the homunculus before falling back and used my legs to force his arms apart before they could swing down at Kakashi, who jumped over me and thrust his right hand at the Führer's head. Chidori. The Führer grunted in pain as Kakashi slashed and electrocuted his left eye, managing to dodge at the last minute, saving his head from the full force of the attack. Quickly, he kicked at me stomach before jumping back to distance himself from us. Damn it, he still managed to dodge, I muttered as I jumped back up, a little sore from the kick, and stood several feet away from Kakashi as we inspected the homunculus as he clutched his left eye. At least he can't use that eye to predict our movements anymore. But that doesn't mean he'll be easy to take down. We'll have to, what the hell? I thought as I felt a huge chakra surge throughout the city and looked at the sky as I saw blue lightning showering the sky in almost a perfect circle. That can't be a good sign. I hope Miyuki is safe wherever she is. Obito, Kakashi shouted, snapping me out of my thoughts as I saw the Führer inches away from myself glaring at me harshly. Troublesome ninjas, no one has ever landed a hit on me until the two of you came. But I can still take you down. I jumped back not before I realized that I had jumped into the edge of the wall and had nowhere else to go. I looked back and saw a flash of silver before I ducked without a second too soon as his kanta sliced the brick wall above me, destroying it in seconds. An opening, I thought as I saw the homunculus wide open for an attack, and quickly I aimed for a punch towards his head, but as I lunged forward he brought his knee up and slammed it into my stomach, sending me flying towards the hole in the wall. However, I quickly grabbed his arm and with all my strength threw him over as well before letting go. Bad luck seemed to be on my side as the homunculus grabbed my wrist and held on as I used my left hand to grab a hold on the wall. Damn it, I growled out as I looked down below me where the water undulated as the rubble fell into it. It can never be easy, can it? Let go of me, damn it. I snarled as I tried to swing him off. As I tried to swing him off, the brick my hand was holding onto began to come loose. I really do have bad luck, don't I? I sighed as the weight helped the brick to come out of its holding. As the brick fell out, a gloved hand reached out and grabbed my hand before I could start falling. I smiled as I saw Kakashi on the other end. Thanks, Kakashi, but could you give me a hand in getting rid of him? I asked as I felt King Bradley tighten his grip on my wrist. Of course. In a puff of smoke, another Kakashi appeared with a kunai in his hand and began walking leisurely down on the wall towards the Führer. You caused a lot of trouble to Miyuki and her family. They'll be glad that they have to worry about one less homunculus. And in a blink of an eye Kakashi plunged the kunai towards his heart, but at the last second he let go of my wrist and the kunai hit above his heart, not killing him instantly. As he fell though, he threw his kanta towards me, but luckily the Kakashi clone deflected it and the both of us watched as he fell into the water below, certain that he would not survive. I sighed in relief as I stopped the chakra flow into my eye and smiled at Kakashi, who helped me up. So, you're still alive, Kakashi said as he placed his headband over his Sharingan and opened his right eye that closed once he opened his Sharingan. We have a lot to catch up, it seems. Yeah, hell of a lot of stuff to catch up on. Kakashi-sensei, are you alright? The violet hair boy from earlier shouted as another masked figure sat next to him as he healed the old man. Ma, I'm alright, Kakashi chuckled as he gave the boy an eye smile. And the old man, Alphonse, smiled as he gave him a thumb up. He'll live, I sighed in relief, at least we were able to save one person. Captain, you're alive, a Briggs soldier cried, turning my attention to the other wounded soldier. I smiled as my clone helped the captain sit up before it disappeared. I clutched my head as I received its memories and also received the chakra exhaustion. Oh fuck, I muttered as my knees went weak and I began falling, but Kakashi quickly held me up. That was more than I thought. Rest for now, Obito. Kakashi smiled as he walked the both of us over to the Alphonse kid, who strangely had a small resemblance to Minato-sensei now that we got closer to him. Alphonse, make sure he doesn't try to get up. The kid smiled as he took me out of Kakashi's arm. Don't worry, I will. I can still fight. I grumbled tiredly as Alphonse laid me down. I can. Just rest for now, Obito-san. Alphonse said as his voice began to grow deep and his figure became blurred. Kakashi and Ling-san will take care of the rest. Rest. I thought sleepily as I turned my head towards Kakashi, who was talking to Ling, who was talking to the captain, before they gave each other a nod and walked towards the door. Ling's arm and body hardened and turned dark gray, leaving his head unprotected, and Kakashi lifted his headband once again and took out a kunai. Man, I wanted to still help. I sighed as I closed my eyes and tried to relax my body. I just hope that Miyuki's okay though. I can't help shake the feeling that something big is going to happen though. Miyuki's paw. Where am I? I thought as my eyes began adjusting to the white light. I tried to move my arms, but to my horror the black arms were still wrapped tightly around me. Is this the portal of truth? It has to be, it feels exactly the same. I shouted in my head as I saw small pictures fly past by me at high speeds. Before I could think of anything else, the arms wrapped around me tugged me further towards the portal, and I screamed as everything became white again and my body disintegrated once more. Ah! I shouted as my body began constructing itself back together, and I could see that I was high above a dark room. A couple of feet in front of me I could see Ed and Izumi leaning over an unconscious metal Alphonse. As I fell down, black ropes wrapped themselves around me and pulled me away from the three before I could even touch the floor. What the fuck? I shouted as the ropes turned me upside down and held me above a black figure with eyes decorating its body, and inside of him was Hohenheim. Miyuki! Izumi shouted as her and Ed turned their attention towards me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of you are here. The creature said, smiling as he took a step closer towards. We're still missing one. I wonder, perhaps the sixth is being created as we speak. What is that thing? Izumi cried as she glared at the creature below me. It's a monster. Hohenheim. Ed shouted as he took notice of him in the creature's stomach. Miyuki. Damn it, let us go. I growled as I struggled against the ropes. I can't do that, especially since you're a very special sacrifice. The monster smirked as the ropes tightened their hold on me, nearly squeezing me to death. Since I can't have you escaping, I need to make sure you stay right where you are. I screamed in pain as the ropes created spikes that pierced my flesh, sending blood down to the floor. Damn it, Miyuki. What the hell do you want from us? Ed shouted angrily. Just what the hell are you? It's the copy of me. Hohenheim grunted as he struggled to speak. You might know him better as the homunculus called Father. This is Father. How couldn't I sense that? I thought painfully as the spikes continued their way into my flesh. This can't end well. I need to get out of these ropes fast. You're saying that this is the bearded bastard? Edward shouted, almost growling. Yes, that's right. I destroyed the leatherback. He was HMMMHM. Before Hohenheim could finish, Father pulled Hohenheim further into his stomach that his body was no longer visible. Enough, I warned you to keep your mouth closed, and now greetings to the four of you. He smiled evilly as he shook the ropes that held me, causing the spikes to dig deeper into my skin. My pretty scarifies. Welcome to my castle. Please everyone, make yourselves at home. How about you let us go instead, you bastard? I growled out through clenched teeth as I saw Izumi and Ed shift themselves into a defensive stance. Before any of them could make a move though, a transmutation circle appeared above them, and as lightning lashed out, a familiar body fell through and landed near Ed and Izumi. Roy! I screamed, struggling even harder to get out of the ropes. Substitution it is then, I thought as I found a tube lying around near Ed and focused my chakra to switch with the object. Not so fast. Father chuckled as he squeezed even tighter and wrapped a non-spiked rope around my throat, suffocating me. I can't have you performing ninjutsu not when it's so close. Kuso, I thought as I struggled to breathe. Roy. Please be alright. I brought him to you. A childish but sinister voice said to my right. As I turned my head to see the newcomer, my eyes widened in disbelief. He's our sixth. Selim. Damn it, why is he here? What did he do to Roy? I wish we could say that makes all 5 of the required sacrifices, but Alphonse Elric has not arrived yet. Hasn't arrived yet. What could he mean by that? Wait, I can't feel any chakra coming from the armor. Does that mean he's dead? No, he's not. He can't be. He can't be. Colonel, are you okay? Say something. Ed shouted to the fire alchemist as he slowly rose up, groaning in pain. Fullmetal, where are we? The bearded guy's hideout. Now what happened? What did they do to you? I was flung into a strange place. Roy began, still hunched over, into a gateway of some sort. Gateway. No, can't possible, he wouldn't. But he doesn't seem to have anything taken away from him. I thought as panic entered my system. The portal. That means something was taken from you. Ed shouted as he began checking Roy for any missing limbs. But your arms and legs are still here. Fullmetal, I don't know how you expect to see my condition when it's this dark in here. And where's Miyuki? I could have sworn I heard her yell. My eyes began to water as I finally realized what the gate had taken away from him, his eyesight. No, Roy, not you. Not you too. It's all dark and pitch black. The lights, where are the lights? Roy tried to stand up and walk, but without his ability to see, he fell forward. Roy. I gasped out as tears fell down my cheek. Roy. So you can't see then? Selim said with little interest. That's good. We've found your ability to be problematic in the past. You're by far the most troublesome of the state alchemists we've dealt with. It's fair to say that you had this coming. Selim said, his voice sounding less sinister as I noticed a piece of his cheek falling out. He must be getting weaker, not that I could do anything to take advantage of that. Ba-star ds. I choked out, glared harshly at them despite the pain erupting from my entire body. You performed it. Human transmutation? Ed asked a bit harshly. Of course not, Roy said, defending himself. You'd think I would willingly do such a thing. Then how the hell did he lose his eyesight? I screamed in my head as I waited for the homunculus to answer. It's true, he didn't. We had to force him to open the portal. It all worked out in the end. Now the Colonel's meddling and troublesome flame alchemy will present no more problems for us. Problems? I'll give you a problem you have to worry about. I shouted in my head as I channeled the chakra into my eyes, transforming them into the Rinnegan. Shinra Tensai. I gritted my teeth in pain as I felt the spikes forcefully leave my flesh and the rope around my neck vanished. I took the moment to quickly jump away from father, and once I landed on the ground I began sprinting towards the four alchemists. Miyuki, behind you, Izumi shouted as I felt a presence behind me. I looked back and saw a shadow figure with eyes that father held speeding towards me. Wind style, drilling air projectiles. Taking a deep breath, I stored up chakra in my throat before releasing it all in a large air sphere that shot towards the shadow. Both collided in midair and caused a miniature explosion. I landed several feet away from the group and panted heavily as I tried to sense if I had gotten the enemy. Perhaps you're the most troublesome here. Father's voice said behind me, shocking me. How did he get right behind me without me noticing him? I thought as I tried to jump away, but before I could even take a step, a shadow came out of nowhere and stabbed me in the stomach. I coughed up blood as it threw me further from the group, and the same ropes from earlier once again wrapped themselves around me and held me in a vice-like grip. No, Miyuki. What happened? What's going on? Roy asked frantically. Why's Miyuki here? Perhaps we should move on with the plan. After all, I don't want her to escaping right in the middle. Father said as he lifted the ropes so that I hung right above him. I moaned in pain as the ropes agitated the wounds my body sported. Truth can be a cruel thing. The two brothers who wanted to feel their mother's warmth once more. Their attempt to bring the dead back to life cost one of them the leg which he stood in, the only family he had left. The other lost his entire body to have it replaced with a suit of armor that can feel nothing. The woman who sought to bring back her only baby was given the body that would never bear children again. The man who hoped to change his nation had his eyesight taken from him, and now he can no longer see his future. And then the woman who would do anything to protect her family has no way to go back to them and lost them forever. Father chuckled as he described the reasons why we had lost what was precious to us. Starred. I groaned painfully. Humans who dare to play God must pay a steep price for their arrogance. That is the way of the universe, the natural order imposed by the thing you worship. That is truth. I don't think so, Ed shouted angrily. If he had done so willingly like we did, that would be one thing. But to force someone to participate in human transmutation against his will and then steal his eyesight, you think that's justified? That isn't a truth I'm willing to accept. Edward roared at father, who merely smiled at him when all of a sudden the roof exploded and rubble fell down along with another person. Through my nearly closed eyes I could see the figure of a small girl landing right next to the elder Elric brother. Mei Chong, Edward cried out in surprise while father looked up at the ceiling, frowning a bit. And now my lovely home has a gaping hole in it. How dare you, girl? Mei merely glared at him. He may be different now, but there's no mistaking it, he's the one behind all of this, Ms. Sabaku. Mei cried out as she saw my bloody state. And Alphonse. What happened? She cried as she looked between the both of us in worry. Miyuki tried escaping and father and pride gave her a beating, Edward muttered as he looked at me with concern. As for Alphonse, I don't know. He won't wake up. Alphonse, wake up please. We need your help, please wake up Alphonse. Mei cried as she slowly made her way to the unconscious boy. Will Alphonse ever wake up though? I thought as I looked at May crying over the boy. Will he? Suddenly the armor shook to life and I could hear Alphonse gasping deeply as he sat up. Alphonse! Edward cried as he ran towards his brother's side. Ni-san, teacher, May, you're… Alphonse gasped as he looked in my general direction. Miyuki. And now, all five are here. Father smiled deviously as the ropes that wrapped around me slowly began piercing my wounds again. Hey, don't think that because you got us here mean that you've won. We aren't going to sit back and let you sacrifice us. Your words do nothing to alter your fate. No, none of you will be leaving. Escaping is futile, you're already deep within my stomach. May suddenly stepped forward and glared hard at the man. Envy told me that you're immortal. Father said nothing, so you're not denying it. That's all I need. I'll handle this one, Alphonse. The brothers gasped in surprise. What, not on your own? Alphonse cried. He's too powerful. It's fine, he can't control my alchemy. May argued. Even if he binds our alchemy, you shouldn't fight him on your own. We can help. I'll be alright, just keep the smaller homunculus out of my way. May growled out, determined to take him down. No, don't. T2, PPOR. Full. I choked out as father lowered me so that I was at his height but still looking at the group. Even though I really don't even need her to fight you, father began as I suddenly felt his chakra began entering me. I'll need to get used to her body though. Wait, body. What does he mean? No, not like that. I frantically thought as I struggled even harder to get out, but at that moment the ropes turned into spikes and pierced my entire body. Everyone stood still for a moment as they saw black spikes exiting my body and watched as pints of blood gushed down to the floor below me. I opened my mouth to scream but all that came out was blood. Miyuki, Edward, Alphonse, May, and Izumi cried out as the spikes suddenly began forcing its way into my body, forcing the Philosopher's Stone into me, healing me but also forcing Father's soul into me. Ah! I screamed in pain as I felt his sinister chakra force its way into mine and began taking over. His entire body had already fused inside my wounds, releasing Hohenheim, and red lightning danced around my body as the Philosopher's Stone ripped my flesh, healed it, and repeated the process over again, just like Ling. Ahhhhhhhhhhhh. Miyuki, no. No, this can't be happening. I screamed in my head as I felt thousands of different chakras entering my body, overflooding my own chakra pathways, ripping them open. I can't be fusing with him. I have to fight him, I have to resist him. You cannot resist me, girl. I heard father's voice laugh in my head as I was pulled away from my conscious and into my mindscape where thousands of souls screamed and screeched, pulling me with them as well. I looked above and to my horror I saw father smiling evilly down on me with the Rinnegan eyes. This body now belongs to me. No, 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 I yelled as I felt my soul slowly becoming weak and drifting away from my main body, slipping away into the sea of souls. No, I can't. Gaara, I'm sorry, so sorry. And with that last thought, I became one of the many souls drifting around in father's body are now known as mine. Third paw. Miyuki. Everyone shouted as Miyuki gave out one last scream of pain before the red lightning around her body ceased. Now that they could see Miyuki's body properly, they saw that her automale leg was torn off as flesh and bone replaced her once lost leg, and all her injuries prior healed as well. Her hair grew out, almost chest length, and now it had blonde highlights in it. Miyuki slowly began rising up, groaning a bit in pain, but not once did he lift her head up. Miyuki, what's going on? What's happening? Roy cried out as he could not see what was happening to her. A small chuckle escaped from Miyuki's lips as she slowly lifted her head up. The group tensed up as they saw their friend glaring at them with golden eyes before they turned into Rinnegan. Miyuki no longer exists. Miyuki's, along with father's voice, said, sounding much sinister as father stared at the group with his newly acquired eyes. She is now one of the many souls inside my body, powering up this body. Father smiled as he looked down in his new body and flexed his hands. With this body, I can easily acquire the power to become God. You bastard! Edward snarled as he slammed his palms down and spiked quickly hurled towards the newly powered father. Weak, father said as he simply held out his hand and forced the spikes to stop in their paths. Fighting me in this new body is futile. Well, what about me? Hohenheim said as several spikes shot up from the ground and headed straight towards father. Really, Hohenheim, do you really think you can take me on? Have you ever taken on a shinobi before? Father smirked before disappearing in flash and appearing right behind Hohenheim. They really can get the job done. Father's hand glowed bright blue before plunging straight into Hohenheim's chest. What the hell? Ed cried as he saw his father fall to the floor clutching at his chest as red lightning danced across his wound and healed it. So fast. Alphonse gasped along with May. I can't have you interrupting my plans, so you'll have to be put down for now. Miyuki said as she pointed her hand at the wounded blonde before blocks of wood came and surrounded Hohenheim, wrapping around him tightly. Don't bother trying to get out, it's sucking out your chakra. Miyuki smirked as she saw Hohenheim fall to his knees gasping for breath, making it hard to even escape. Hohenheim. Damn it, Miyuki, fight him, I know you can. Edward shouted angrily as he could do nothing but look at his friend helplessly. As I said, Miyuki no longer exists. Father said as he stood up straighter and smirked evilly at the occupants in the room. I do. And now, Father glared at May before lifting his right hand so that his palm faced the Xing princess. To get rid of extra baggage. May, run. Alphonse yelled as he and Ed simultaneously slammed their palms down and created a wall between her and the Miyuki father. However, the wall crumbled as powerful winds ripped through the wall and into the Elric brothers and May. I have no need for your presence, and since you're a nuisance you have to be eliminated. Little girl, watch out. Izumi cried as she saw father disappear and appear right behind the young Xing girl. No, May. Alphonse cried as father punched May's chest with a flat palm. At first nothing seemed to have happened to May before she coughed up blood and fell to the floor gasping for breath. What an interesting technique, perhaps the shinobi aren't as worthless as I thought. Father said as he looked down at the gasping girl. But time to end this. Leave her alone, Alphonse shouted as he, Ed, and Izumi shot projectiles at her. Really, haven't you learned anything? Father laughed as he held out his hand and repelled the first couple of projectiles. When the second round came, Father frowned momentarily as he had to jump back to avoid the last several hits. Father jumped back. Ed thought in surprised as he saw Father in Miyuki's body jump back several feet instead of repelling the projectiles. Then that must mean that power is only for a limited time. Once Father jumped back to his original spot, Alphonse quickly hurried to May as she slowly used alchemy to heal her wounds. May, are you alright? Alphonse cried as his armor clanked as he kneeled down beside her. May gave him a weak smile. I'm fine, Alphonse. Father looked up at the ceiling and clicked his tongue. It looks like time is upon us. Oh well, Father looked down and smirked as he raised both hands out. Time to gather around, children. Faster than any of the alchemists could react, all of their body lurched forwards before they sped towards Father and landed hard onto the floor. All of them landed on the floor with a loud thud, and as they tried to get up, they realized something was pushing against them, making it impossible to move even an inch. What the hell is this? Roy grunted as he struggled to move. I can't move. Not only can I repel, but I can also attract things to me. Father smiled as he saw all of his sacrifices in a circle around him. It's time to put you to work, my sacrifices. This planet of ours, have you ever considered the possibility that it might be in fact a life force? Actually, it would be more accurate to refer to it as a vast nerve system. One that retained its every memory since its beginning and has witnessed the universe unfold. Just think of the massive quantity of information that such a system would hold. But even a better question, how much power could one gain if they opened that system's gateway? Have you ever considered that? Think about it. Father smirked. And now that I have you here gathered, I shall use you as sacrifices to open the planet's gateway. Father laughed as he looked at the surprised and shocked looks from the sacrifices. That's a pretty good plan, Pops, or should I say Mom now? Ling's voice smirked as he jumped behind Father and prepared to strike at him. Where did he come from? Selim cried in surprise as Ling clawed through Miyuki's face, sending pints of blood gashing everywhere. Hope you don't mind me using it for myself. This world will finally belong to me, what the hell? Ling shouted out in surprise as the blood spilt earlier suddenly vanished into smoke and the rest of Father's new body began to fade in and out of existence. Did he get him? Ed whispered as he too looked surprised at the trick before the area around him began to fade in and out, looking different than before. Did we just teleport? Izumi asked as the fading stopped seconds later and they found themselves in a new location, not far from where they were before. In fact, it looked like they were near his chair that Father liked to sit at. Genjutsu. Father replied with a smirk as he saw Ling look around in confusion. It's an illusion that can trick most minds unless a shinobi knows how to expel it. You were never really there, you just thought you were but not really. Now, Father began as he began to laugh hysterically, the center of this world is right here. Father slammed his palm down onto the table where red lightning shot out wildly and the alchemist screamed as eyes appeared on their bellies. It's time. And before the alchemist knew it, black substance poured out from the walls and began to fill up the small space. The country-wide transmutation had begun. "Dad, do you feel that?" Winry asked as she stopped about 3/4 to the central building where Kakashi was supposedly at. It's not natural." Gaara finished his daughter's sentence as he looked up at the darkened sky for answers. The eclipse had started not long ago and it nearly looked like night despite it being about late in the afternoon. "Something's going to happen," Shikamaru said as he tensed up as the ground beneath them started to shake. "Stay alert." Gaara quickly surrounded the whole group with a thick string of sand, preparing himself for anything before the street below them glowed bright red. "That's not supposed to happen, right?" Minato shouted as the 8 of them jumped high into the air and landed on Gaara's sand as the red street grew in size. "Look," Naruto shouted as black hands slowly rose from the ground. "Those look like the hands that took Miyuki not too long ago." "Don't touch them," Shikamaru screamed as he noticed people starting to fall down, gasping for air. "It looks like, Shikamaru couldn't finish his sentence as it suddenly became difficult to breathe and he fell to his knees gasping. "Shikamaru-kun," Hinata cried as she rushed to her fallen comrade. "Dad, help," Winry gasped as she too fell to her knees gasping for breath. "Winry," Mei cried along with her father as they rushed to her. "Hold on, Winry, hold on," Mei muttered before she too fell down and gasped for breath. "Mei, Winry, Hinata, what's happening to them?" Gaara shouted as he cradled his daughter's gasping forms. "It looks like those hands are absorbing chakra, and it's killing." Hinata mumbled before she too fell into the same state as the girls and Shikamaru. "Mom, no," Minato muttered before he, Kiba, and Akamaru fell down sharing the same fate as the others. "Hinata, Minato, hey, hold on," Naruto cried as he held his family. "Gaara, we have to, get out." Naruto couldn't finish his sentence as he gasped for air. Naruto, Gaara rasped out as he saw his friend pass out along with his family. As he looked around, he could see hundreds of bodies littering the streets as those hands took out the chakra from them, leaving them dead. "It's only a matter of time before I join them," Gaara thought as he lost control over his sand and the group fell on a nearby rooftop. As he and his family fell to the floor, Gaara kneeled over gasping for air as well. His vision became fuzzy as he felt the chakra inside his body leaving him. "So this is it," Gaara thought as he fell over and laid right next to his daughters who were struggling to stay alive. "This is where we die. I'm sorry, it looks like this is the end for us. I'm sorry, Miyuki." With one final breath, Gaara took one last look at his daughters only to see their chests still and their eyes wide with fright, before he succumbed to the darkness. After father gets his powers and that. As the dust cleared away from father's lair, the 5 bodies of the alchemist laid scattered across the floor. Slowly each of them gained conscious and gradually rose up. Izumi coughed out dust that accumulated inside her lungs before checking her stomach to see if the eye was still there. To her relief it wasn't, and the rest of the alchemist checked as well. "Is everyone alright?" Roy asked as he stood and blindly looked around him trying to hear anything. "What happened?" "You have done well, my faithful sacrifices," a more feminine voice said in the darkness, and as the group turned around to the source, 4 of them gasped in surprise. "You mean you've actually done it?" Hohenheim gasped in surprise as the dust finally lifted, giving the group a clearer picture of the voice. Sitting in the stone chair leisurely was a young woman in her late teens early 20s with her left fist gently holding her face in place. Her hair was now more of a more golden color with red highlights, and she smirked at her audience as her golden eye scanned the area. Her clothing had changed as well. Instead of Miyuki's outfit that she created for this fight, the new father wore a one-shoulder tube top and toga-like white skirt. "Yes, I've done what I set out to do. Acquire God. Acquire God. That's impossible," Edward yelled out, glaring harshly at the new homunculus. "Unfortunately it is," Hohenheim growled out as he too glared at the homunculus. "With a great amount of energy." "Wait, what energy?" "The Philosopher's Stone," Edward cried out in surprise. "It can't be," Alphonse shakily said as Mei slowly walked towards his shaking figure. "Does that mean everyone we know was turned into a Philosopher's Stone? How many lives were sacrificed for this?" Mei asked, even though her face showed she really didn't want to know the answer. "Amestris is a large country, at least 15 million people," Roy growled out as Mei gasped at the number. "You bastard. First you take over Miyuki's body and now this. Damn you," Edward screamed as he clapped his hands together and slammed them down, but before any transmutation could occur, Miyuki's father tapped his finger on his armrest and a large wave of wind blew around him and sealed off any alchemy. "Your alchemy will do you no good." Miyuki, father said as she lazily stared at them before lifting her right palm and created a small fire ball with intense light that brightened the whole room with a golden color. Farewell, gentlemen. What are you, what's that? Hohenheim exclaimed as he saw the fireball form. The power of God is now in my control. With that I can do anything, for instance I can create a sun right in the palm of my hand. Miyuki said as her eyes changed into a purple color with rings forming around her pupil, and steadily the miniature sun flew right in front of the group. Shall I turn its flame loose? Miyuki, father stopped in mid-sentence as she felt something thump inside her unnaturally, as if someone was rebelling against her. Your plan to obtain God is a flawed one. We plotted against you since the moment you set it into motion. Hohenheim growled out as Miyuki, father felt the thumping again and glared at the golden-haired man. Over the many long years, I have performed calculations after calculations. I have arranged my own philosopher's stones, the friends who long resided within me, in preparation of this very day. Miyuki, father glared at him still before her eyes widened as the thumping inside grew larger and the time intervals between them began getting closer. So you've planted your philosopher's stones, what of it? They are merely points, they will not activate without a circle. That's a basic rule of alchemy. Miyuki, father growled out. We do have a circle, it's one of enormous power and it can be self-activated, even if something should happen to incapacitate me. The moon's shadow, cast over the world by the eclipse. Hohenheim yelled out towards the end. Miyuki, father clutched her chest as the thumping became more powerful than before and veins began forming distinctly over her body. Even now you still think you can stop me. You're a fool, Hohenheim. Miyuki, father yelled as she raised her empty hand to the blonde man. That's the very reason why I came back. It's time you remember your place, dwarf, in the flask and release all the souls in Miyuki from your clutch. Hohenheim yelled as well as he braced himself for an attack. However, before Miyuki, father could attack, red lighting shot down on her, forcing her to release her hold on the sun and concentrate on maintaining her control over Miyuki's body. As the lightning died down, everyone held their breath to see what would happen. In a moment later, Miyuki, father screamed once again as lighting shot out from her body and millions of souls erupted from her body, fleeing from the lair and back to their original bodies. All was still as the red souls flew above Central City before several thousand swooped down as they located their original bodies back. A group of very large red souls flew above a rooftop where the leaf and sand shinobi laid still before entering their bodies. For a moment nothing happened before Mei gasped aloud and began coughing back the air into her lungs. Soon the rest of her family followed suit, slowly getting up and helping each other out. Cough, okay. Gaara asked his eldest daughter as she crawled to her sister and helped her up. I think, cough, so. She replied before looking around and saw that the civilians were recovering as well. What just happened? I think, cough, we all died. Shikamaru coughed out as he helped Kiba back onto his feet. That feeling though, cough, it wasn't, cough, natural. Minato rasped out as Hinata held her son. It was like being trapped, imprisoned in a vortex of anguish. Naruto finished softly as he held his stomach where Kumru resided, still glad he could still feel the nine-tailed fox within him. To think, this father had this ability to do such things. We have to get to Central Command now. Gaara said as he stood up and glared at the building where he felt the most sinister chakra radiating from. Miyuki needs us more than ever. We have to meet up with Kakashi-sensei, Alphonse, and Obito-san though. The more help we have, the better chance we have taking father down. Hinata said as she slowly rose up along with the rest of the group. Gaara nodded before muttering a soft, scatter, and the team sped off the rooftops and headed towards Central. Prepared to face whatever there was. Did it work? Edward asked as steam seeped through Miyuki, father's skin once the souls had been released. Miyuki, father hunched over in pain as she tried to keep the form of God with the Ziri's souls she had. Yes, the people of Amestris had their souls returned to their own bodies. And with nothing more than the souls of the Ziri-san's father already had, I doubt he can continue to hold the form which he calls God and possibly lose control over Miyuki's body as well. Suddenly Miyuki, father crushed part of her armrest as she pulled herself up. I can always create another stone. I am not through, there are more, billions of humans I can draw more energy from, what? Miyuki, father gasped as she clutched her head in pain. For a few moments Miyuki, father grunted loudly in pain before a familiar voice rang out from Miyuki, father's mouth, bringing a hopeful smile to the alchemists. As if I'm going to let you damn homunculus. Miyuki said as she regained some her control back. It's time I got my body back, don't you think? Miyuki's paw of moments before. Pain, anguish, grief, that's all I hear and feel now. I thought as I floated through the millions of souls crying out in pain. And there's nothing I can do to get out of here. Miyuki had tried previously to move her body, but for some reason nothing would work and she could only float on, listening to the screams and shouts of the Zirisan people. If I can't do anything soon, I'll end up just like them. Don't worry about it, an almost childlike voice said as several souls in front of her parted away to reveal the voice. I have a plan. Miyuki's eyes widened in disbelief as she saw a miniature form of the nine-tailed fox, Kurama, smirking at her. Kurama, what are you doing here? I asked as he made his way towards me. How are you even in here? Did Naruto get caught in father's plan? I'm not the Kurama that resides in Naruto. The fox said as he got closer to me, I'm the Kurama that resides in you. Impossible. I may have your chakra but it's not enough for you to take a form. Wah. My mouth dropped in shock as Kurama's tails touched 4 more souls that swam by him and immediately got sucked through his tail, making him bigger than before. Oh, so, you've taken the Zirisan souls and made them into chakra which gave you a physical form now huh? Learned it by accident when a soul brushed up against me and merged with me. Kurama said smiling as he wagged his new larger tails. You're almost like father, you realize that right? I said sighing. Kurama growled in annoyance. I am nothing like that pathetic creature. I am merely using the souls in order to get you out. I'm sure they'd be better off within your body than father's. How is that supposed to help me? I asked as I felt a rush of more souls coming towards my way. Quickly Kurama wrapped himself around me and shielded me against the wave of more souls entering my body. What the hell was that? I shouted as more screams filled the void. The souls of the Amestris people. Kurama answered as he carefully tried to keep his tails away from the new souls. They have entered the homunculus's body. My eyes widened in shock as I saw all the new souls whiz by me, screaming and shouting, asking what was happening before another soul came by and collided with them. No, it can't be, they can't be, oh my god. Kurama, get us out of here. I shouted, desperate to stop father now. At the moment, I can't do anything. With this many souls inside him, he's too powerful to even try to break out. Kurama growled out. However, if these souls were to return back to their original bodies, the homunculus would be at his weakest point in which we can break out. I finished smiling before frowning. How do we know if the souls will be returned though? You'll just have to trust those alchemists you befriended. Kurama said looking out above him. So now. We wait. I finished softly, looking on sadly at the souls swarming around the vortex inside my own body. Moments passed before we felt a pulse go through my body. At first I had thought nothing of it before it came again and twice as powerful as before. What was that? I asked Kurama, still wrapped around me. I don't know, but I have a feeling that our time to break out will come soon. Kurama grinned as a third pulse flowed through my body stronger than the previous 2 combined. Brace yourself. No sooner than he said those words, a force almost like my Shinra Tensei began pulling at the Amestris souls out of my body. The souls. They're being returned back to the Amestris people. I shouted over the screams and shouts of the souls that flew past Kurama and they did it. Are you ready? Kurama asked as he unwrapped most of his tails from me, leaving one that wrapped securely around my waist, before following the path of the Amestris souls. Hell yeah, time to get my body back. I smirked as we neared the exit of the vortex of souls. Now, Kurama shouted as he merged with my body as I flew out of the vortex and back into my own mindscape where a younger version of Hohenheim stood, clutching his body as the souls left him. You have something of mine. I growled out, surprising the homunculus. And I want it back. Before he could even react, I was already on him and punched his face into a nearby wall. How? How did you, Gua? He cried out as I jump-kicked him in the face, sending him tumbling out of the room where he had full control of my body. Quickly, I sent out my own chakra back into my mindscape in hopes of getting back control, and to my surprise I could feel my senses coming back. Yes, finally, I'm getting my body back. I smiled as I poured more of my chakra into the mindscape before I was kicked down, sending me several feet away from the center. You think just because I lost some souls, you can take back control over your body? You're forgetting who you're dealing with, girl. I glared angrily at him as I rolled over and charged at him. No, I know exactly who I'm dealing with, homunculus. I shouted as I pulled my first back and punched at his face. Father effortlessly dodged and sent a wave of chakra at me. I screamed in pain as the chakra threw me back several feet and burned my skin. It's time you go back where you belong and cease to exist. Father growled out as he walked calmly towards me. As he got within 2 feet, I quickly kicked him and he fell down rather painfully. As if I'm going to let you, you damn homunculus. I snarled as I flared my chakra throughout the mindscape, giving me control back to my body as the homunculus began having trouble taking back control. It's time I get my body back, don't you think? The homunculus screamed out in anger as he sent a wave of energy towards me, but I merely smirked as I sent my own wave back at him. Get out of my body. My voice laced with kumaras shouted as I felt a searing pain of being split in two. Get out. A white blinding light flooded my sight before I felt myself regaining back my body senses. I gasped in pain as I landed on the hard cold floor of Father's lair, red lighting dancing around my body. I groaned as I opened my eyes and saw Edward and Alphonse running towards me. Miyuki. Miyuki, you're back, Edward yelled as the brothers finally reached me and examined me. Are you hurt anywhere? My right leg hurts like fuck. I moaned as my eyesight began to clear up. From the corner of my eye I could see steam coming from the chair where Father sat in grunts of pain and anger. Well, considering that you no longer have automail, of course your new leg is going to hurt, Alphonse said as he helped me up. No automail. But what? How? Never mind. I groaned as I steadied myself on Alphonse's metallic arm, not before getting a look of myself on his armor. My hair had grown considerably and now was a more blonde color with red highlights. Not only that, but my outfit was different. I now sported a white one-shoulder tube top, but luckily I still had my pants and boots. What's going on? You, Father growled out as veins bulged out from his body, you took my souls. I looked up at Father to see a crazed look on his face before it turned into anger. You took my souls, he shouted before he sent out a large but dense mass of energy towards me. My eyes widened in surprise, but before it could even hit us, Hohenheim quickly stepped in front of us and deflected it upwards, causing it to explode high in the now brightening sky. Get behind me now, Hohenheim shouted as Father shouted in anger once again and released another wave of energy towards our group. Wasting no time, Alphonse carried me back behind Hohenheim and back with the group as Hohenheim began blocking Father's attack. Once the attack collided, a transmutation circle below us glowed blue, and as we turned around, we saw May, despite her previous wounds, using alchemy to also help deflect Father's attack. May, Alphonse shouted in surprise before May answered him back. Detecting and using the power that flows within the ground is what we alchehistrists do. What's more, the greater the power the other side has, the greater the power I can use. Look out behind you. May cried as a larger blast of energy rushed towards us, and quickly Hohenheim placed his hands in front to stop the attack. Hohenheim, I cried as I saw his hands beginning to disintegrate. I don't have what it takes to fight his energy. Hohenheim grunted as he slowly began slipping back. Try as hard as you can, sir. May cried out, I can't hold on much longer. Teacher, please hold on to Miyuki for a moment, Alphonse said as he carefully gave me to Izumi, who was holding onto a blinded Roy. I'm going to help Dad. And quickly he rushed off to Hohenheim and with the help of his brother, helped Hohenheim stay steady on his feet by pushing on his back. Miyuki, are you alright? Roy immediately asked once he could feel my arm. What happened? I'm fine, just weak kneed at the moment, I said as I clung onto Roy as I felt myself slowly losing balance. Father managed to posses me for a while and I got out, no big, I said, brushing my hand across his cheek to reassure him I was fine since he couldn't see me face. Are you sure you're alright though? Izumi asked this time. The possession could have caused your body some strain. I'll be fine in a moment once I get my chakra reserves up and running again. Besides, I said as I saw Edward and Alphonse cheering on their father to hold on for a moment. We're gonna need all the help we can once we find an opening. It's coming, Hohenheim suddenly shouted, surprising me for a moment before I felt a surge of chakra coming underneath us. Edward screamed as he and his brother momentarily let go of their father and clapped their hands together. In a flash the energy beneath us wiped out the sinister chakra that had once dominated the lair and led in a flow of natural chakra, making it possible to use transmutation again. Within seconds Edward and Al transmuted several pipes that sped straight towards Father and caused him to stop his attack on us. How do you like that? Edward smirked as he saw Father and Pride glaring angrily at us. Your little throne has been reduced to rubble. And it's time for someone to put an end to all your damn posturing. So I'm going to take you down and the truth along with you. Edward growled out as Izumi handed me to Roy and stepped out to help Edward and Al. With a battle cry, Edward, Al, and Izumi began transmuting left and right, attack Father with all kinds of weapons and at different angles in hopes of forcing Father to use up all his stone. Hey Roy, do you think you have a good throw? I grunted as I tried to reach for my scrolls that miraculously still stayed with me. What good will it do if I can't even see? Roy muttered bitterly. I gave him a small chuckle as I managed to unroll a scroll and several dozen kunais with exploding tags came out from it. You're forgetting Roy, I still can see so I'll be your eyes. So can you throw knives? I asked as I passed a kunai. I felt him grab and feel the kunai for a moment before smirking. Hughes taught me well enough. So where am I throwing this at? He asked as he momentarily let me go and stood in a throwing position. Tilt your body just about a little under 45 degrees. I said as I saw Edward making cannons to throw projectiles at father. Now throw. Roy grunted a bit as he expertly threw the kunai towards father. Kai! I shouted as the kunai came closer to father and exploded right in front of his face. Don't let up, Roy. Continue throwing the kunais, I yelled as I passed Roy several more. What the hell was that? I heard an explosion, Roy asked as he continued to throw the deadly projectiles. Knives with exploding tags attached to them. You can stay there, kind of like grenades. I smiled as I continued to set off the tags. Keep it coming with all you got. Hohenheim yelled as father directed an energy attack at Ed which he shielded his son against. Make him use his Philosopher's Stone. He'll run out of energy. Easier said than done, I shouted back as I released another exploding tag upon father. Here, take this, Izumi shouted as she transmuted a nearby pipe to attack father as if it was a snake. However, it nearly bounced off him and destroyed a part of a wall instead. A pot of boiling hot molten rose up next father and a second later Greed appeared right behind father smirking evilly. The sweet memories. That's exactly the tub I took a bath in. Now it's your turn, daddy. Greed shouted out as he slammed a steam beam at father which broke once it came in contact with father's energy shield. Get out of the Greed. Edward shouted as he slammed his palms down and directed his transmutation at the boiling molten causing it to tip over onto father. Did it work? I asked as I shakily stood up on my own trying to sense if father had perished or not. As the molten bubbled it suddenly parted away from the middle out father calmly transmuted a pillar that sent him up. You bastard. I growled out as reached for a kunai, but before I could even throw one, a transmuted hand wrapped around me, forcing me away from Roy, and pulled me towards father. Miyuki. Roy shouted as he rolled out of the way and tried to feel for my hand but it was too late, I was already speeding towards father as he rose up from the lair. Miyuki. He shouted along with everyone else down at father's lair. Roy. I shouted back as I tried to pull away from the hand. Your attempt to fight back is futile. Father growled out as I felt his hand on my neck, squeezing the air out of me. From the corner of my eyes I could see the several layers that had been blown up by the black energy mass from before and see all of our friends from before. I saw Riza's eyes widen as we passed her group but she couldn't do anything as we continued to rise up. I will take back what is mine. Says who? I choked out as I flared out my chakra that was surprisingly red once we reached the top of the building. Both of us flew apart as my chakra and his energy collided with each other. I coughed back air into my lungs as I finished rolling away from father and as I sat up, I saw several brave soldiers pointing their gun at him. No, get away. I shouted as I saw father lift his hands up and force the life source out of the soldiers. No, you fucking bastard. I screamed as I saw the men fall down dead, their eyes still wide from the sudden attack. With a sudden burst of energy I ran towards father, and with a battle cry aimed a chakra enforced punch to his face. No, don't physically engage a battle with him. Kumra's voice roared into my ear and in a split second changed my aim to hit the ground beside him. What the fuck do you mean by that? I asked him as I jumped backwards to avoid another of father's energy blast. You're technically a homunculus now, remember. I took those souls in order to get more chakra to help you out of father's possession. If he gets a hold of you, he can force the small stone you have within yourself back into his own body and also take control over your body again. Kumra explained and I frowned at his reasoning. So basically, I can't engage taijutsu with him, huh? So let's try ninjutsu. Releasing a huge amount of chakra I called out, wind release, wind dragon jutsu. Within seconds, the wind surrounding the building formed into a great dragon-like figure with glowing gold eyes, releasing a mighty roar before it flew straight at father. Once it crashed into father's energy shield, the dragon exploded and sent a huge gust of wind towards several of the soldiers knocking them off their feet. Did I get him? I muttered to myself before I felt a surge of chakra underneath me. Quickly I jumped to the left just as a hand broke away from the ground and tried to grab me. However, the hand continued to follow me as I dodged it continuously. Damn it, it's not letting me get any time to plan an attack. I growled out, as I flipped into the air as I dodged his hand once again. Let's see if you can spot the real me then. Shadow clone jutsu. I shouted as clouds of white smoke appeared all around father. For a moment father stopped his attack and looked at the clones in anger before he sent out another energy blast that destroyed most of my clones. Damn you. Now you guys, I shouted as a pair of clones snuck up behind father, each with a Rasengan in their hands. Rasengan, they shouted as the ball of chakra made contact with father's shield, and for a moment it looked like they were about to crack through until father transmuted several spikes that pierced their body, forcing them to disappear along with the Rasengan. Now it's time to take back what you took from me, father calmly said as he turned towards the real me despite the number of clones that surrounded him. Quicker than I could anticipate, ropes quickly rose up from the ground underneath me and quickly wrapped themselves around me. Before any of the clones could come to my aid, father destroyed the remaining clones with simple spikes that pierced all of their bodies. Ah! I screamed as the ropes turned into spikes and ripped through my flesh once again, trying to take over my body as it did before. Stay away from my sister, a familiar voice shouted before I heard the same whirling sound of chakra. Rasengan. A blur of orange flew past me and in a second destroyed the ropes that bound me. Once the ropes dissolved into nothing, a rope of sand carefully but quickly wrapped itself around me and pulled me back over to the hole father and I came through. Miyuki, are you alright? Gaara asked as he helped me up. Hinata, do you know how to use medical ninjutsu? No need, I grunted as red lightning flashed over my wounds, quickly sealing up my skin. Part homunculus now. Gaara's eyes widened along as Minato, Alphonse, Winry and Mei quickly rushed over. Mom, Auntie Miyuki, what? Short version. I groaned as I slowly stood up and saw Naruto, Kakashi, and Kiba engaging with father at the moment. He possessed me, I managed to get control back, accidentally took some of his stone, and now I'm part homunculus. So that's why your hair is more golden than orange, Minato said as I took a look at a loose strand. Not to mention longer when we saw you almost an hour ago. So is this the homunculus called father? Gaara asked as he glared at the man who blasted the three shinobi back. Quickly Gaara sent out his sand to catch them before they could hit the floor hard and brought them closer to us. Miyuki, you're okay, Naruto cried happily as he saw me and tackled me to the floor. I thought something had happened to you. Well, not entirely true, but that's for another time. We have to fight against him, I said as father turned around and glared harshly at us. Miyuki's right, Kakashi said as he pulled his headband up to reveal his Sharingan. We need to deal with him first. Do you know what he's capable of? Kakashi-sensei asked me, but before I could say anything, I heard a familiar cry. Miyuki, you're alright, Al shouted, forcing our attention behind us. I smiled happily as I saw Hohenheim, Izumi, Mei and Al join us. Thank goodness. I'm glad you're all alright too, I sighed as I winced at Mei's appearance. It pained me to see that I had injured her to that extent. Miyuki, who are these people? Gaara asked as both groups studied each other. The golden-haired one has the same chakra as father. It's all right Gaara, they're friends. That's Izumi Curtis, Hohenheim, Alphonse Elric, and Mei, all alchemists who want to bring down father as well. She almost looks like you when you were younger, Oni-chan, I heard Winry whisper to her older sister, who could say nothing as she looked at the Xing princess with shock. Hey, you have my brother's name. Minato smiled as placed his hands behind his head, smiling at the armored alchemist. And you look badass. Brother. Alphonse sighed at his brother's antics but smiled nonetheless. What happened? Hohenheim asked as he stepped forward and into our shinobi group. Father tried to get more stones by using the brig's soldiers, I said as I pointed to the dead soldiers that I had failed to save. And then he tried to possess me again. Luckily my family arrived just before anything could happen, I said, turning around to glare at the homunculus. How dare you take their lives away like that? What else are these pitiful and powerless humans good for? Naruto gritted his teeth in anger by his response while Hohenheim merely sighed. You insist on treating humans as a lower life form, but don't you see only through them can a philosopher's stone can be created? And only through a stone can a homunculus arise, but what does a homunculus produce? What do you create? Creation is all and you've done nothing but destroy. You may think you've reached a perfect state of being, but you've reached nothing but a dead end. Hohenheim growled out. For a moment father said nothing and closed his eyes, but once he opened them, I felt a spike in his chakra, and when he smirked, I knew something bad was going to happen. I can create. Shall I produce some humans for you? Humans. Winry whispered aloud as we all wondered the same thing until his stomach exploded with red electricity and out came several mindless bodies, most likely from the Xerxes people. We all gasped in shock as the bodies cried and moaned in pain as they exited father's body. What is this? Gaara asked, wide-eyed as the people began walking towards. Is this the reanimation jutsu? How could anyone do such a thing? Winry cried as Minato and Alphonse quickly stood protectively in front of her. How dare you? Naruto growled out as his fist curled up in anger. How dare you mess with the souls of the dead? You'll pay for this. Naruto growled out as he summoned a clone by his side to start up the Rasengan. No, Naruto, don't. I shouted as Naruto quickly charged at Father, dodging all the reanimated people. Father merely smirked as he sent a transmuted hand to throw Naruto off course, and he fell on the opposite side of us. Naruto-kun, Dad. Hinata, Minato and Alphonse shouted as they saw Naruto land with a heavy thump. This is wrong, Hohenheim muttered as he saw all the people walking slowly towards him before shouting out, damn you. Father simply smirked before I felt a large rise in chakra coming from him. He's going to attack, and it's going to be a big one. Kunra shouted in my head as I felt him channeling chakra into my eyes, changing it so that it now used Preta Path. I pushed Gaara away from me and ran in front of Hohenheim, who looked at me in surprise. Everyone behind me now, I shouted as a blast of white energy came rushing towards us at impossible speeds. At the last second I managed to put my hands out in front of me and began absorbing the energy of the attack. However, with such large amounts of chakra, it was only a matter of time before I lost control over Preta Path and the blast would hit the group full on. Mom! May cried out as I cried out in pain as the energy blast began burning up my hands. Gaara, Kakashi and anyone who can create barriers, find all the people you can protect and shield them now. What about you, Miyuki? Gaara shouted back as he took out his sand and shielded Winry, Mei, Izumi, Hinata, Minato, both Alphonse and Mei. I'll be fine. Hurry, my control won't last. Ah. I screamed as I lost control over the absorption of the energy blast, and it tore right through me and towards me group. I heard everyone scream as the blast tore through Kakashi's stone barrier and Gaara's sand shield, and for a while I felt nothing but unbelievable pain as my vision went black. Thirds Pav. For a while, nothing could be seen through the cloud of smoke as Father's attack finished its course. All was still as the brig's soldiers standing by wondered what had happened to their fellow comrades. In the cloud of dust, a young Xing girl slowly gained conscious from the attack, injured badly by the blast. Her pet panda cooed at her, happy that she had survived, but cried when the girl winced in pain. Xiao Mei, you're really alright. Mei whimpered happily as she turned and gave her panda a small smile despite being in pain. However, as she looked in front of her, she gasped at the sight of a badly damaged armored Alphonse. One of his arms had been torn halfway and his body armor had cracked, leaving a nice size hole where you could see the inside. One of his legs was destroyed and his helmet had several cracks in it. Alphonse! Mei cried as she tried to reach the still armor alchemist. For a moment Alphonse said nothing before life came back to the helmet, and Alphonse quickly looked back. Mei, you're alive. Are you hurt? He asked as he tried to stand up only to fall forward with a thud. Alphonse, your body. It's alright, another voice said, causing Mei to look up. Her eyes widened in horror as she saw a girl with orange hair tied back into a low ponytail struggling to stand as her sand barrier started to crumble. I can't transmute his body. The girl could no longer stand and fell to the floor with a thud, and Mei could now see the damage her body had undergone. Her body was decorated with several burn marks, her clothes were ripped apart to the point where it could fall off her anytime, and blood dripped down from her forehead and chest. Winry! Another girl shouted out, causing Mei to turn her head to the right. She saw a girl with blazing red hair tied into low pigtails crawling to their position. Winry, don't you dare die on me. The girl gasped out as she continued her slow journey. She too sported injuries that looked life-threatening and her outfit looked like tattered robes, but at the sight of her collapsed sister, Mei had somehow conjured some hidden strength to crawl over. Winry! Mei shouted before collapsing just a couple of feet away from her. Winry, please wake up. Please. Mei, not able to hold in her sadness any longer, began crawling towards the fallen girl called Winry. Mei, do you think you can heal her? Al asked as Mei made her way towards the girl. Please. She shielded us both. Please. The other girl cried as she overheard their conversation. Please, help her. She's my little sister. I promised to protect her. Please. Mei cried as the Xing princess finally made it to the unconscious girl, gasping for air as she tried to catch her breath. I'll do what I can, but she'll need to see a real doctor soon. Mei said, giving the redhead a small pained smile as she got to work. Several feet away from them lay the bodies of Kakashi-sensei, Shikamaru, Kiba, and Akamaru. All of them slowly regained conscious as they recovered from the attack. Kakashi had used his stone wall barrier to protect his group, but it was rendered useless as the attack tore right through the wall and hit the group dead on. This is almost like the invasion of pain. Shikamaru grunted as he sat up before wincing as he tried to put weight onto his leg. I broke my leg again. At least you didn't break your wrist. Kiba groaned as he cradled his wounded hand to his chest. What about you, Kakashi-sensei, are you alright? Probably a concussion and multiple bruises on my ribs, Kakashi said as he slowly got up to help his once students. It looks like at least everyone made it somehow. A couple dozen feet away from them was Gaara's group. Gaara's sand managed to block most of the attack at first, but just like the rest, his shield crumbled and the group had took the hit. Gaara groaned as he sat up and inspected the people around him. Hinata was slowly regaining conscious, along with the woman named Izumi. Naruto's children, however, still stayed unconscious. Report. He rasped out as parts of his sand armor over his body began crumbling as well. Bruised rib, possible bone fracture, a hit to the head, but it doesn't seem too serious, Hinata said, wincing as she tried to get up on her own. I'm fine, the Izumi woman said as she rose up to help Hinata up. If you hadn't used your shield it would have probably been worse. Gaara nodded you're welcome, to her before focusing his attention to Hinata's children. How are they? They should be fine, none of the wounds look life-threatening, Hinata said as she activated her Byakugan to see if her boys were injured badly. They're just unconscious. Gaara sighed in relief as he realized that the boys would still live to see another day before looking around for his wife. Where's Miyuki? Have any of you seen Miyuki? She took the full force of the attack, didn't she? Izumi provided as she looked around as the dust began to clear up. She should be ahead of us. Gaara quickly tried to stand up only to stumble in pain. Gaara, you shouldn't push yourself, Hinata said as she reached out to Gaara and held him up. But Miyuki, Miyuki, Gaara shouted as he saw the still form of his wife laying beside a blonde-haired boy with a metallic right arm. Miyuki. Miyuki's paw. Yuki. I heard a muffled shout as I began to regain conscious. As I opened my eyes I saw nothing but dust, and as I tried to move my head, I saw a blonde-haired boy laying right beside me. Blonde-haired boy. Edward. Edward. I croaked out as I rolled over. Edward, are you alright? Edward slowly groaned back to conscious and slowly pushed himself up. Miyuki, are you alright? He asked as he crawled over to me and helped me sit up. I winced in pain as red lightning danced around my skin once more and healed all my external and internal wounds. Yeah, it would have been worse if Hohenheim didn't get to me at the last second. I moaned as I struggled to stay upright before my eyes widened in realization. Wait, Hohenheim, I cried out as I looked behind me to see Hohenheim kneeling in a protective stance. His clothes were ripped at the arms and his nice dress vest was torn away, leaving him only in his white dress shirt. Hey, snap out of it! Edward shouted to his father when Hohenheim didn't move. Come on, let's. Edward stopped in mid-sentence as he noticed father standing right behind him. His glowing red eyes glared at us before he slapped Hohenheim away from the both of us. Quickly I pushed myself in front of Edward and glared angrily at the homunculus, but I was too weak to cushion Edward and I out of harm's way. You're first, father said as he raised his right hand, and suddenly I felt my chakra being forced out of my body, as if he was taking my life force. I gurgled in pain as I tried to breathe and looked over to Edward and saw him in a similar predicament. I glared weakly as I saw red lighting dance on his fingertips, proof that he was controlling our life force. No, we can't die here, we just can't. Someone help. Take this, Rasengan, my brother shouted from above before slamming his signature technique on the homunculus, surprising him. He shouted in pain as the chakra from the Rasengan grinded into his head, and the force was so great that it caused father to create a crater underneath him. With father momentarily down, he had stopped trying to take our life force away, and Edward and I regained back our breath. Your target is the man with blonde hair and red highlights. Make sure you don't shoot fullmetal by mistake, I heard a man say before a chorus of men shouted, right. When I looked up I saw that Briggs soldiers had surrounded us and were gathering weapons to fire at father. Miyuki, are you alright? Are you hurt? Naruto asked as he created a clone to help Edward stand up and jumped out of harm's way. At that moment the Briggs men began firing their guns and bombs at father, who was standing up already. Yeah, a little worn down, but I'm still up to fight. I smiled as I heard several bombs go off in father's position. That should have done at least some damage, I hope. Did you get the old man? Yeah, don't worry, he's fine, Naruto said as the dust settled around us, but another Naruto appeared next to us holding a battle-worn Hohenheim. That should have done some damage. No, it didn't, Edward winced as Naruto jumped out of the smoke cloud and turned around to see father. We had landed on the opposite side of my family and I could see how bad the blast injured them. It looked like the kids took the worst of it. Winry was on the ground breathing raggedly as May performed alchemy on her. May looked at the two of them, with desperation, but relief washed over her face as May finished her alchemy and smiled weakly at her direction. Nearby, I saw Kakashi-sensei standing up wearily and helping up Shikamaru, who was favoring his left leg more than his right. He probably had a broken leg. Kiba was nursing his right wrist, which from a distance looked red and swollen, and I had to wince. Kiba probably broke it during the blast. At least Akamaru didn't look too injured. His fur was scorched in several places, a little blood near his forehead, but other than that it looked like he had no broken bones, and he helped his partner to safety. Next to them stood Izumi holding a weary-looking Alphonse as he tried to stand up on his own. Next to him Minato looked around in bewilderment as he saw the damage father had done to them. Hinata held a worried and a bit bruised Gaara as his eyes searched the area for someone. As his eyes landed on me, his face visibly relaxed and smiled softly at me. I gave him a soft smile in return before turning my attention back to Naruto. "What? Come on, that had to do something, even a scratch," Naruto cried as he looked towards father to see if what Edward said was true. "This is going to be a pain in the ass," I muttered as I heard Naruto suck in his breath as he saw father lazily looking around before his eyes landed on us. Then, it turned into a glare as we saw dirt marks from his previous face plant from Naruto's Rasengan. I guess he wasn't happy that someone managed to do that enough of damage. With a wave of his arm, he sent a wave of energy towards us and we quickly jumped away to avoid getting injured again. "Naruto, take Hohenheim somewhere safe until he can recover." The clone holding Hohenheim nodded and jumped to several nearby Briggs soldiers and gave Hohenheim to them. "I have a plan," I said as the Briggs soldiers began firing non-stop at father. "But we'll need Hinata for it." "Why her though?" Naruto asked as he sent another clone to get the rest of the shinobi group. "Father's power is based on the Philosopher's Stone within him," I said, wincing as I saw the cloud of smoke surrounding father, and I knew none of it really made a difference. In order to use the Philosopher's Stone, he has to have a free-flowing connection to the stone. It's basically almost having a bougie inside of you, and not only does it give you huge amounts of chakra, it can also heal wounds in a matter of seconds. So if we can cut that flow for a moment, then it'll give us an opportunity to attack. Edward finished as he understood what I mean. But to stop someone's energy flow is impossible unless you know where to attack those points, and you have to know how to close them. "That's why we need Hinata-chan then, huh?" Naruto said as he snapped his fingers as the rest of the non-injured group arrived. "Where are the kids, and Shikamaru, and Kiba?" "They're injured and can't battle at the moment," Kakashi-sensei supplied as he stood next to Gaara, who looked like he wanted nothing more to hug and kiss me, but destroying father was a priority. "So what's your plan, Miyuki?" "We need you to use your gentle fist on father," I told Hinata, who looked momentarily surprised. Me. It's the only way we can get a long enough opening to do some damage to father," I explained. "If he can't use the Philosopher's Stone, then he can't deflect any of our attacks, and he's vulnerable to injuries that if fatal enough we can take him down even easier." "We'll have to create an opening for Hinata then," Gaara said as he summoned his sand wordlessly. "That's not going to be easy," Edward said as he glared at father. "He's going to know when you're attacking." "But he let his guard down while he was trying to create Philosopher's Stones out of us," I said. "He can't protect himself and create a Philosopher's Stone at the same time, and that's when Hinata can strike." "But who'll be the decoy?" Gaara asked as he glared at me, saying with his eyes, "Don't you dare volunteer for this, I can't risk losing you." "I'll be the decoy," Naruto said, "or better yet, I'll use the shadow clone." "That won't work, a shadow clone life isn't even long enough to stall for Hinata. Once all the chakra disappears, the clone will poof out of existence and he'll focus back on deflecting." I sighed. "I'll be the decoy." "No," Gaara interrupted, and I glared at him. "Gaara, this isn't time to argue. I have a small Philosopher's Stone inside me which will give me time to survive father's attack. That can be our only chance we have. And what if that doesn't happen? What if he manages to take your life force before Hinata can reach to him? I don't want to lose you again." "You won't," I nearly shouted before calming myself down. "I thought I lost you, and now that I found you again, I'm never letting you go again. I'll come back, I promise," I whispered, smiling softly at Gaara. Suddenly Kakashi gave a small cough, turning our attention back to the group. "Oh, sorry. So you'll act as the bait then?" Kakashi asked, and I nodded. "But we'll have to act as if we're attacking him. Otherwise he'll see through the plan." "How sure are you that this is going to work?" Edward asked as he turned around to face father. 60%, I said uncertainly before turning around and prepared myself to attack. "But we can't let that." "How about we up the odds?" Roy's voice said behind me. I turned around sharply to see Roy, along with an injured Riza, and a slightly disoriented Obito standing next to Alex, who was flexing his muscles. "Move out of the way, I'm burning this bastard to a crisp." Despite having his eyes closed, he was facing directly towards father. He clapped his hands together before raising his right hand in front of him ready to snap. Next to him, Obito was going several hand signs for a fire jutsu. Scatter, I said as I grabbed Edward and our group jumped out of the way just as Roy and Obito fired their attack on father. The intense heat from the combined attack even reached us even though we several dozen feet away. Such intense fire, Hinata muttered as she used her arm to block the heat and bright light from the attack. I smiled softly as I saw Obito and Roy finish. Well, he is the flame alchemist. From the corner of my eye I saw Gaara glare slightly at Roy before turning his attention back towards father where he had consumed the fire and was glaring directly at us. Let's move, I shouted before rushing towards father. Right. Never had I felt such a rush before, well not since the 4th Shinobi War where we were battling for our existence. This was a matter of life or death and this plan could not fail at any cost. Behind me, I heard Roy snap his fingers again and without looking back I jumped to the left to avoid the fire attack. Father merely raised his hand up and absorbed the attack into a small ball of fire before unleashing it back on Roy. Kakashi-sensei, I shouted before I heard him mutter. Water style, water barrier wall. Steam soon flooded the area as the two attacks collided giving us a better advantage. Gaara, you and I will take him on the right, Naruto and Hinata on the left. For now don't engage in hand-to-hand combat or get too close. Just attack him and Hinata when you see him starting to take my life, make your move. Hinata nodded before running off with Naruto to take on father's left. Are you sure this will work? Gaara asked as we neared father who was smirking at us. No, but with you. I'm sure nothing will go wrong. I smiled at him before taking a deep breath and stocked up on chakra in my lungs. Wind style, wind torpedo. As I released my breath, a large gust of wind flew out and formed into a nearly invisible torpedo that raced towards father. As it collided with father's shield, Gaara quickly summoned his sand above him and small bullets of sand pelted on father's shield. The bullets that deflected off his shield quickly destroyed parts of the wall and nearly killed several Briggs soldiers if they weren't quick enough to dodge them. Not letting father have enough time to counter-attack, Naruto and his clone quickly bombarded him with attacks. Several had Rasengans while others had the Great Ball Rasengan. As father focused his attention momentarily on Naruto, Hinata quickly attacked with her 8 trigrams vacuum palm from a distance that when it collided with father's shield it momentarily fizzled before returning it back to its original state. So we're on the right track, I thought as I jumped into the air and shot compressed air bullets at father before dodging an arm that shot from the ground and tried to grab me. Now we need Hinata to get closer. As I landed on the ground, I saw a water dragon collide against the homunculus's shield but before any of our family could attack again the Briggs soldiers, chimeras, Shing Ninja, and the other alchemist began attacking. Continue attacking. Don't give him any time to counter-attack. I heard Alex yell as he punched several spikes towards father while the chimera and Shing Ninja quickly took this time to attack with needles and a grenade. I looked back and saw Obito running with Kakashi and perform another fire jutsu together with him. Miyuki, watch out, I heard Gaara yell and as I looked back, the hand I was dodging from earlier had caught up with me and collided with me, holding me in a tight grip. Don't fight, I thought as I fought against my will to get out of the attack. This can be our only chance. Father sent an energy blast towards Gaara as he tried to come to my aid and I cried out his name as I saw Gaara land hard on the floor. You bastard, I snarled as father dragged me closer to him, stopping everybody in their tracks for a moment seeing they did not want to hit me. It's time I take back what belongs to me, he muttered before I felt the same sensation of my life being forced out of me. I cried out in agony as red lighting danced between us. Hinata, I shouted hoping that she got the message and began her attack on father. No one can help you now. I don't think so, Hinata said confidently as she stood directly behind father surprising him. However, before he could attack her, Hinata sprinted forward, with her Byakugan bulging fiercely at him. 8 trigrams 64 palms. And with extract precision and intense speed, Hinata began attacking father's Tenketsu forcing him let go of me. Quickly, Obito jumped behind me and pulled me out of harm's way as Hinata continued her vicious attack. Obito, I coughed out as we landed a safe distance. Thanks. No problem, it's the least I can do since I'm not exactly up to par with you guys. Obito said as he flashed a smile. And I still feel sore from fighting Wrath. He winced as he held his abdomen. We may need you soon. If we can roast him then that should make him use his Philosopher's Stone real good. I smiled as I saw Hinata give one final blow to father and amazingly father stumbled back and coughed up blood. Get ready Obito. Izumi, I shouted to the black-haired woman who merely smirked at me. Already on it, she said as she clapped her hands together and created a large dome around a frantically healing father. Fire now, I shouted as Roy, Kakashi and Obito unleashed their fire attacks on father. Quickly I added some wind to the fire to make it even more intense, and we could hear father scream in agony as the fire was contained by the dome before it was destroyed by the intensity. Did we get him? I heard Edward ask several feet away from me. I hope we did, or at least made him very, very weak. As the fire died down, all of us glared angrily at father who, despite having his skin melted off in several places and was slowly healing itself, he still stood standing there. Apparently not as much as we would have liked. I growled before running towards father once again. Wait, Miyuki, Obito shouted, but I didn't care. I wanted to see father dead. After all he has done, he deserves to die. However, before I could get even close to him, I saw Greed jump from behind him, smirking as he punched him in the face. Maybe humans aren't able, but what about a homunculus? For a moment everyone stopped as we stared in amazement as father's shield disappeared and Greed landed a solid hit on father. However, on further inspection Greed's hand had lodged itself into father's head. Wonderful, you're just in time, Greed. What a dutiful son you are. As it happens I could use another philosopher's stone. I'll be taking yours. Father smirked evilly as I saw veins budge out from Greed's arm. Greed yelled in agony as father began draining his philosopher's stone before suddenly Greed smirked at father instead, surprising him. Good acting, right? You can't take my stone away without dropping your own barrier. Stupid fool, I bet you never thought your godly powers can be taken away, did you? Greed laughed as I felt Greed's chakra suddenly pulling father's philosopher's stone out of him and into his body. But you were wrong, they will be mine now. Idiot, you really think taking that damn homunculus's stone is that easy? If it was, then Kurama would have taken all of it. The last thing we need is a stronger father. I thought as I raced towards Greed as I felt father taking back Greed's stone slowly. Idiot, I shouted as I got close enough to father to punch him. However, he transmuted a wall to block my attack. Are you trying to make him stronger? I jumped back as the wall blasted away and nearly took me with it. Edward also tried to attack father as well, but his attack was blocked. From the corner of my eye I could see Izumi and Alex rushing towards father, probably to engage in taijutsu. If we can get Hinata back here again, we might do some damage. I thought as I continued to punch and kick at father, hoping that his shield would crumble away soon. Never knew you were handy with swords. I smiled as I saw Izumi transmute 2 swords and began stabbing at father while Greed still hung on. Well, you learn a thing or two while traveling. Izumi smiled as she continued her attack. Miyuki, out of the way. I heard Gaara shout before noticing a large cloud of sand over father. Time to go, I said, quickly grabbing Izumi and jumping back to avoid the attack. As soon as we cleared the area, Gaara's sand fell on top of father before wrapping tightly around father's shield. Sand burial. Gaara snarled as he closed his right hand into a fist and forced the sand to constrict tighter around father's shield. For a moment nothing happened before red lighting began dancing around the sand as if it was trying to repair itself. It's working, I shouted back before rushing towards father, along with Edward, clapping my hands together to transmute several whirlwinds to finish it off. Just a little, suddenly deep inside the constricting sand sphere, there was a shout of agony, and for a moment I thought it was Greed's before Gaara's shield was blasted away by a large energy backlash. Edward and I took the hit and were sent a couple feet back along with Greed. As we landed heavily on the floor, I turned and saw Edward's right automail arm had been destroyed. However, Edward didn't seem to care much about his lost arm because he rushed towards father once again and continued to attack him using kicks instead of punches. Izumi and Alex quickly backed up Ed and continued to punch father's shield, hoping to get through it. Hey, you okay? Obito asked as he landed right next to me. Yeah, I'm fine, but we don't do something about that shield, we'll never get through. We need Hinata's gentle fist again, but I highly doubt father is going to fall for the same trick twice. We need a new. I looked up just in time to see father blocking one of Edward's kicks with his hand instead of using his philosopher's stone. Or not. I smiled before creating a Rasengan in my right palm. We can end this now. I growled as I rushed forward once again, intent on destroying father once and for all, and I could see Hinata, Kakashi, Naruto, and Gaara following my example and rushed towards father with an attack. However, as we got closer to him, the chakra inside father flashed violently inside him, causing father to hunch over in pain as black smoke came from his mouth. This can't be good. Suddenly red lighting danced around father's form as his chakra flared out of control, and before we could even realize the danger, Father fell down on all fours and a huge blast of energy came rushing towards us. Everyone screamed in agony as they were forcefully pushed away by the energy blast that nearly destroyed Central Command's rooftop. Oh, that fucking hurt. I groaned as I felt the last of the Philosopher's Stone fade away as it healed most of my wounds. At least I'm not a homunculus anymore. Is everyone alright? I asked, sitting up and looking behind me. My breath stopped for a moment as I saw nearly everyone lying motionless on the ground, spotting several bloodied wounds. To my right, I saw my two girls along with May, struggling to get up behind a legless and nearly torsoless armored Alphonse who I'm guessing was protecting them. In the center the alchemists and shinobi laid scattered across the rooftop with no intention of regaining conscious soon. Near my right I saw Hohenheim's body slowly repair itself with the Philosopher's Stone, but his body had taken too much hits to get up again. And to the far right I saw Edward gritting his teeth in pain as a nail from part of a root piece pierced his left arm, trapping him there. A stone. I heard Father wheeze out as he frantically looked around the area looking for a living person to make a stone out of. Just as his eyes were about to land on me, he stopped on Ed's trapped form and began walking towards him. No, I muttered eyed-eye as Father began closing in on him. No, not him, you damn fucking bastard. I shouted, jumping up and ran towards Father despite my wounds throbbing painfully. Stay away from him, I screamed as I clapped my hands together and thrust my palms forward, sending a vortex of wind straight at him. Father screamed as he was thrown into the air and I quickly followed. You have done fucking enough. It's time to end this right now. I growled as I punched Father continuously in mid-air. It's over. I snarled as I powered chakra into my newly restored right leg, ignoring the pain that came with it, probably since it's been nearly a year since I used chakra in that leg, and kicked him back down to the rooftop of Central Command. Father landed solidly on the floor, creating a nice size crater. Father didn't move and I smiled as began flying back down with a Rasengan ready in my hand. However, once I was nearly 10 feet away from him, I heard Edward cry out. Miyuki, watch out. I looked at Edward to see his eyes widen, scared for my well-being, but before I could wonder what he meant, a huge spike came from the right, piercing through my chest and stopping me in midair. All was silent as I slowly extinguished the Rasengan in my hand and coughed up a huge amount of blood. I looked down below me to see Father smirking evilly before my body was thrown off towards the side. The spike left a hole in my torso, and as Father recalled it back, the wound began to bleed out heavily. I said nothing as I felt the life inside of me slowly disappearing, leaving my body just as quick as my blood was leaving my body. I turned over to my right to see Edward's shocked face staring at me. I gave him a weak smile as my eyesight began to fade away as well, and just before I lost all consciousness, I heard a shrill scream. Moom. Winry's paw. What just hit me? I remember joining up with Mom, that homunculus dude summoning dead people, and then, a flash of white light before I left like I was crushed by a giant toad summon. Wait, May. May, I weakly rasped out as I opened my eyes and tried to survey my surroundings. I grunted in pain as I felt my body protest against moving. No, I have to get up. Our parents need all the help. Winry-chan. Thank Kami you're alright. I heard my older sister groan to my left. As I turned my body around I saw the doppelganger May also trying to get up. Thank you Alphonse-san for protecting us. I looked at her in confusion before turning my head to the right as saw the armored boy laying on his side shielding us from the blast. Wait, wasn't it me that shielded him? It's nothing, I'm just glad all of you are alright. Alphonse said as his armor began cracking. Alphonse, your armor. Little May cried as she looked at the armored boy with worry. I gave her a small smile as I painfully and slowly got up. Don't worry, sis knows a thing or two about alchemy and she can patch him up just right. That's if I get this wrist fixed. May muttered as she held her left hand tenderly against her chest. Do you mind? Stay away from him, we heard our mother shout, turning our attention over to her voice. We looked over and saw our little worn-out mother rushing towards Father before she thrusted her palm out, sending huge vortex of wind at him. As Father was thrown into the air, Mother quickly followed suit, punching Father as fast as she could. It's over, she yelled once again as she sent a kick on Father's stomach, causing him to fly down to the ground, and once he reached ground level, the impact of the kick caused him to create a crater. Yeah, kick his ass. I smiled as I saw my mom preparing a Rasengan in her hand to finish him off. She's actually going to finish off that bastard. May smiled as she saw Mom getting closer to Father. It's going to be over. Miyuki, watch out. We heard the boy with blonde hair that was missing his right arm and his left arm had been penetrated by a nail, making him unable to go anywhere shout. Quickly we looked back over to our mother, and to our horror a large spike came from the ground and pierced Mom's right side, going through her entire torso. We said nothing as our eyes widened in horror as Mom coughed up alarming amounts of blood before Father threw her towards the blonde boy who also shared our same facial expression. Moon! I screamed in horror as I saw her eye lose the little life it had in them. Miyuki! Alphonse quickly cried as he craned his helmet to see our mom. She can't be, no, not now, she can't, she just, May merely looked on ahead, unable to comprehend what just happened. You damn fucking bastard, I shouted as I got up and ran towards Father, who was now beginning to walk towards the blonde-haired boy. Winry, no, don't. I heard my sister shout out behind me, but I was in no way going to listen to her now. I blinked away my tears as I began nearing Father, and once I was in striking distance I clapped my hands together and transmuted several spikes to attack Father. You bastard! I cried as I continued to pelt Father with spike after spike before resorting to my own sand. You will fucking pay for what you've done and did. Raising my right hand, my sand quickly floated above Father's head before sending down pressured sand bullets. Winry, behind you, May shouted. I turned my head and my eyes widened in horror as a spike came from behind. Shit, I can't dodge it. Fang over fang, Uncle Kiba's voice shouted as two gray and white torpedo crashed into the spike. Wah, Uncle Kiba. Move it, Uncle Shikamaru's voice shouted from behind the bridge soldiers. I can't hold him in this position forever. Closer inspection, I saw several shadows holding down Father as he struggled to break free. Minato and Alphonse quickly rushed to our position and gave me a small smile. Leave it to us now, Winry, go and take care of Auntie Miyuki. Minato said before charging towards Father. He's right, go, we can handle this. Alphonse said as well before taking after his brother. Stay out of the fight, we got this, pup. Kiba smirked at me, despite his right wrist swelling significantly enough to cause anyone pain. Come on, Akamaru. Let's show this bastard what we got. Akamaru barked happily before the pair of them went to back up Minato and Alphonse as Father broke free of Shikamaru's trap. Upon closer inspection, it looked like Father had gained some strength back, and that didn't bode too well with me, but I couldn't dwell on that fact for long. Mom needed my help fast. Quickly I ran towards the blonde-haired boy and my bleeding mother. Mom, please be okay, please be okay. I shakily muttered as I kneeled down to her side and saw all the blood spreading out from underneath her. So much blood, I mumbled as I poured chakra into my hands, making them glow a green color, and placed them on my mother's wounds. She's not. I glared angrily at the blonde boy as he tried to convince my worst fear. Shut up, you don't know, I can still save her. I can, I cried as tears ran down my face. She's my mom, she can't die, not here. Winry, brother. Several voices cried, turning our attention back to the fight. Both of us gasped in shock as we saw Father standing a few feet away from us, glaring angrily. A stone, I need a stone. Winry, get out of there. May shouted as she tried to stand up. From the corner of my eye I saw my father and the rest beginning to regain conscious and stared in horror as they saw the both of us in Father's path. I was about to jump out of the way before the same voice from before shout again. Brother. I looked behind me and saw the blonde boy struggling to get out. Damn, I can't just leave him. But I don't have enough time for an attack. Blinking away my tears, I quickly stood up protectively in front of the blonde boy and glared harshly at Father, who held his hand up, ready to take our chakra, our souls. Wah. Mom died protecting you, I said to the boy stuttering behind me. And so I will too. Winry. Dad shouted as I saw red lighting begin to form from Father's hand. I also saw several kunai race towards us, but I paid no attention to them. Mom, it looks like I'll be joining you soon. I closed my eyes as I saw blue lighting dance around the both of us as the boy behind me yelled. Al, no. Miyuki's paw. Back here, huh? I thought I would be in a black abyss. I muttered aloud as I looked around the familiar white room I had come across nearly a year ago. I didn't expect to see you back so soon. Truth said behind me. Yeah, dying does that to you. I sighed as I turned around and looked at the white human figure. So now what? Where do I go? Back to my own world where my death god will decide what to do to me, or am I still stuck here and bound to your rules? Truth gave me a foxy smile. Right to the point. Well, you're a special case, you can decide where you want to go. Suddenly two doors appeared simultaneously behind Truth. Stay here and become part of Truth as everyone does at their end, or go home and face your world's god. Well, can I have a couple of minutes to decide? I whispered, looking down at my bloodied and worn out boots. Being dead, it takes a while to get used to being dead. Take all the time you need. Truth muttered before disappearing into nothingness. Miyuki. A strained voice called behind me. Is that really you? I slowly turned around and saw a long blonde-haired boy sitting down cross-legged, seeing that he couldn't really stand, not with all his bones showing. However, before I could ask who he was, I recognized his golden eyes and soft voice even though it was deeper. Alphonse. What? Would you like some company until your brother returns? I asked, smiling softly as I realized what Alphonse had done to get here. Alphonse gave me a surprised look. How did you know? What else could you have done to end up here? I said, taking a seat next to him. Something must have happened that placed Ed's life in danger in order for you to give up your body. I smiled as I put a strand of blonde and orange hair behind my ear. How can you be so calm when you know you're dead? Alphonse suddenly asked before blushing. I mean, sorry, that wasn't supposed to come out. No, it's fine. I chuckled softly. It's a reasonable question. The only reason why I'm calm is because I've always known I was going to die one day. A ninja's life is short, so we have to expect that we might die on any mission. I'm not happy about it. I mean, I missed my girl's childhood and I won't be there when they grow up, but it's part of life. At least I can see my mom, dad, Ero Senin, and everyone that passed away before me. That's something to look forward to. I'm sorry. Don't be. I interrupted him, giving him a small smile. I lived a long enough life, well, long in a ninja's life. You deserve to live. You're only what, 14? 16? Probably the same age as my girls. You still have much left to live for. But it's not fair that you've died before us. Alphonse argued. You deserve to live as well. Life's not fair, Alphonse. I'm sure you know this already. I mumbled. It's just how life is. A couple of seconds of silence passed between us before I spoke once again. So, what are you going to do when Edward brings your body back? I asked. Alphonse gave me a small smile. Try Winry's apple pie. That's pretty high on my list. Oh yeah, I remember you telling me that. I can't believe it's been that long. I smiled as I remembered the memory. Will you visit her right after this? I'm not sure. I think brother would like to wait a while for me to get back my strength. That sounds reasonable. Wait, do you hear that? I asked as I heard crackling noise coming a couple feet in front of us. Yeah, it's brother. Alphonse cried as a gray door appeared in front before disintegrating, revealing Edward with his actual right arm. Go on then, I told Alphonse as I helped him up. Your time here is done. Miyuki, Edward muttered as he gave me a sad look. I'm sorry. Don't be, I said, stepping backwards, slowly disappearing on my own, having already decided where I wanted to rest. Just take care of your brother, you too, Alphonse. Is there anything you like us to tell to your family? Alphonse asked as he held onto his brother for support, seeing that his legs couldn't hold him up for long. Tell them, I love them and that I'll always be in their hearts. I said. Tears slowly came out of my eyes, as Alphonse and Edward began walking towards the light from Alphonse's door. Thank you, and the door closed behind them, and now I was forever alone in this blank white world. Goodbye. Have you chosen? Truth asked as it came behind me. You already know the answer. I said, drying away my own set of tears before turning to face the white faceless figure. Then it's time to. I'd like a moment to speak with my wife if you don't mind. Gaara's voice suddenly echoed throughout the room. Quickly turning around, I saw Gaara standing behind me, giving me a soft smile. Miyuki. Gaara, I cried, jumping into his arms and crying heavily into his chest. I don't. How? You're dead as well. I'll explain later. Gaara muttered as he tilted my chin up and gave me a soft kiss on the lips. For now, let's just enjoy the moment we have together until we must part. Very well, Mr. Sabaku, Truth said, startling me. I'll give you 5 minutes after all, your death god hates to wait. With that said, Truth once again disappeared, leaving Gaara and I alone. Well, I guess it's over. Father was defeated, wasn't he? I asked as I leaned into Gaara, feeling safe and warm. Yes, by the efforts of both our daughters and the blonde boy called Edward. Gaara muttered, placing his head on top of mine. Well, the younger generation is supposed to surpass the older one, so I can't say I'm too surprised. I only wish I could see what kind of shinobi they would grow up to be, and see what Edward would do now he has no reason to be in the military anymore. And I also wonder how Roy will cope with the loss of his eyesight. I muttered the last part mostly to myself. Roy, does he mean something to you? Gaara suddenly asked, surprising me. What do you? You must have been lonely here. You thought you lost everyone, didn't you? And Roy, he helped you, made you feel loved, didn't he? Gaara said, grabbing my chin lightly, and made me look at him. Suddenly the guilt that had been eating at me the moment I was reunited with Gaara came back with full force, making me nauseous. Yes. I said, giving into the truth. He reminded me of you. Albeit, he did have a different personality from you, but you had to look underneath all the bad to see the good in him. I sighed, leaning back into his chest. Just like when I first met you. I see, Gaara muttered before returning to the same position we were in before. Besides, none of that matters. I'll be dead, he'll continue on living, and you'll be with me. Not quite, Gaara said, interrupting me and confusing me at the same time. What do you mean not quite? We're both dead, right? Miyuki, I want you to know that I've always loved you, and whenever you're happy, I'm happy. So if another man brings you happiness, then it's fine with me. Quickly I pushed myself out of Gaara's arm and stood at arm's length away from him in order to get a better view of his face to see if I could figure out what was going on from his facial expression. Nothing. Gaara, what are you talking about? You're not making any sense. Gaara quickly pulled me closer to him and gave me a long and passionate kiss. Remember, Miyuki, Gaara softly said as we finally pulled away. I will always love you, and I'll be with you no matter what. Time's up, Mr. Sabaku. Well, it's been nice seeing the both of you. Not many people surprise me as much as you did. Have a good life, Mrs. Sabaku and Mr. Sabaku, your death god awaits. Truth said as suddenly an invisible force forced the two of us apart and forced us towards different doors. Gaara, I love you. I always remember you. I screamed as tears trickled down my face. I love you too, Miyuki, take care. Gaara said as he shed a couple of tears before a bright light blinded me. Mom. Hey, she's waking up. A muffled voice echoed through my ears as I began to regain the conscious I lost when the white light blinded me. Mom, can you hear me? It's Winry, your daughter. Please open your eyes. Winry. Wait, does that mean she's dead? No, that can't